I came home early from work to surprise my wife, but found her in bed with my brother. 2 days later, I handed her divorce papers and walked away for good. My name is Jack. I'm 28, and I thought I had a normal life. I had a steady job that paid well, a wife I thought I loved, and a brother I trusted more than anyone. Emily, my wife, was 25, beautiful, smart, and charming in a way that made everyone notice her. I always believed she loved me, that our marriage was built on trust and loyalty, and that no matter what life threw at us, we would face it together. My brother, Alex, was 26, close in age, and always part of our lives. I never thought for a second that the people I loved most could betray me in the most unthinkable way. It was a regular Thursday, and I had decided to leave work early. I wanted to surprise Emily, bring her flowers, maybe cook something simple, and spend the evening just us. I had been thinking about this all week, planning small things that would make her smile. I walked into the house, tired but excited, imagining her reaction when she saw me standing there with a smile, flowers in hand. I pushed the door open quietly, thinking I would sneak up on her, and maybe we would laugh about how I always tried to be romantic. But the second I walked into the bedroom, everything changed. The scene I saw is something I will never forget. Emily was in bed, without clothes, and my brother Alex was there with her. Couldn't believe my eyes. My body froze, my mind went blank, and a cold feeling spread through my chest. The person I trusted most, the woman I married, and the brother I thought I knew, were betraying me in the worst way possible. I stood there, holding the flowers, too shocked to speak, while everything I thought was true about my life shattered around me. All the plans I had, all the dreams I held, crumbled in that moment. The trust one had placed in them, the love I believed was mutual, was gone in an instant. I didn't say a word at first. I just stared, feeling my heart beat faster, a mix of anger, hurt, and confusion overwhelming me. I wanted to yell, to ask how they could do this, to make them explain, but no words came out. Emily noticed me first, and her face went pale. She tried to cover herself, tried to speak, but everything she said sounded weak and hollow. Alex stared too, guilt written all over his face, but no apology came. I realized in that moment that nothing could fix this. Whatever words they said, whatever excuses they could offer, couldn't undo the betrayal I had just witnessed. After a few moments that felt like hours, I left the room. I needed space to think, to control the rage and sadness that was bubbling inside me. I sat in the living room, hands trembling, mind racing. I thought about all the years I had spent loving Emily, all the moments I had trusted her, and all the memories I shared with my brother. And then I realized something important. This was the moment that changed everything. I could either let them destroy me, or I could take control of my life and stop being a victim of their betrayal. That evening, I went to my study, sat at my desk, and pulled out papers. Divorce papers. I took my time, making sure everything was perfectly written, legally binding, leaving no room for arguments. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to yell or cry or beg. I wanted closure and a way to protect myself from anyone who would hurt me again. I signed the papers, feeling a strange sense of relief wash over me. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't joy, but it was power. I was taking back control of my life. I was no longer at the mercy of those who betrayed me. The next day, I called Emily and told her to meet me in the living room. She walked in, confused, thinking maybe we could talk, maybe we could work things out. I saw the fear and panic in her eyes when she realized what I was holding. I placed the papers on the table in front of her. I didn't say much. My eyes said everything. You broke me. You lied. You betrayed me. And I am done. Emily tried to speak, tried to explain, but I held up my hand. I didn't want to hear it. 2 days later, I watched her leave, watching the door close behind her as I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It was the end of one chapter and the start of another. A chapter where I could heal, where I could trust myself again, and where I could rebuild a life without lies and betrayal. For weeks after, I focused on myself. I called friends, picked up old hobbies, and slowly reclaimed my life. The memory of that day stayed with me, a constant reminder of the pain that comes from betrayal, but also of the strength that comes from choosing yourself. I never reached out to Emily or Alex again. I didn't need closure from them. I had created my own. And in that silence, I found freedom. Freedom from lies, freedom from broken promises, and freedom from people who were never meant to stay in my life. Looking back now, I realized that moment was a turning point. It was painful, brutal, and heartbreaking, but it was also necessary. I learned that love doesn't mean blind trust, that family can hurt you just as deeply as anyone else, and that sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to walk away. I walked away with my head high, papers signed, heart hardened, and a mind focused on the future. Emily and Alex chose drama and betrayal. I chose me, and that choice, that simple act of choosing myself over the people who hurt me, was the beginning of my healing. After Emily left that day, the house felt emptier than it had ever been. The quiet was heavy, almost suffocating, but in a strange way, it was also freeing. For so long, I had let my life revolve around other people, my wife, my brother, the expectations of family and friends. I had thought love and loyalty meant giving everything, sacrificing happiness, and trusting completely. But that trust had been shattered in an instant. The betrayal didn't just hurt. It taught me something I could no longer ignore. I had allowed others to have too much control over my heart, my emotions, and my life. Sitting in the living room that night, I realized that rebuilding myself would take time, patience, and a willingness to let go of everything I thought I knew about love and family. In the days that followed, I threw myself into my work. It wasn't just distraction. It was a way to remind myself that I was capable, strong, and independent. I started waking up earlier, running in the mornings, and making small changes that gave me a sense of control I hadn't felt in years. I began to reconnect with old friends I had neglected, friends who had never betrayed me, friends who reminded me what it felt like to be valued and respected. Every call I took, every laugh I shared, and every small victory at work reminded me that life could continue, even after something as devastating as this. Slowly, the anger I had felt that first day began to turn into a quiet resolve. I wasn't going to let their betrayal define me or dictate my future. Weeks turned into months, and I found myself living a life I had never imagined before. I learned to enjoy my own company, to cherish the freedom that came from making decisions that were truly mine. No more secrets, no more lies, no more pretending that everything was fine when it wasn't. I traveled a little, explored new hobbies, and even started dating again. Not for the sake of filling a void, but to remind myself that love could exist without betrayal. And even though the memory of that day with Emily and Alex was always there, it no longer had the power to control me. It had shaped me, yes, but it hadn't broken me. I was stronger than I had ever been, more aware of my worth, and more determined to never settle for less than I deserved. Eventually, I stopped thinking about Emily and Alex entirely. They became a part of my past, a painful lesson I carried with me, but no longer a presence in my life. The anger faded, replaced by a quiet understanding that people reveal who they truly are through their actions, not their words. Emily had chosen drama, excitement, and betrayal over love and loyalty. My brother had chosen selfishness and deceit over family. I had chosen myself, and that choice, simple as it was, became the foundation for a new life. One where I set the rules, protected my heart, and refused to let anyone treat me as anything less than I deserved. Looking back now, I realize the truth of what happened that day. Sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest, and sometimes the only way to survive is to walk away without looking back. Closing the door on Emily, signing those divorce papers, and refusing to be drawn into their lies was not just an act of anger. It was an act of self-respect. It was my first real step toward freedom, and it has shaped everything that has come after. I am happier now than I have ever been, more confident, and more at peace with myself. I know my worth, and I know that betrayal will never have the power to shake me again. I don't regret choosing myself. That evening, sitting alone in the quiet house, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I didn't even know I had been carrying. It was the weight of betrayal, disappointment, and misplaced trust, all finally released. The future felt open, full of possibility, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly alive. Life had been cruel, yes, but it had also been a teacher. I learned that love without trust is nothing, that family can hurt just as much as strangers, and that the strongest person in the room is not the one who forgives endlessly, but the one who stands up, walks away, and rebuilds. And that is exactly what I did. I never looked back. Emily and Alex faded from my life, and in their place, I found clarity, strength, and peace. The door that closed that day was not just the end of a relationship. It was the beginning of a life that belonged only to me, a life where betrayal had no place, and where I could finally be free.